Hey everyone, a big welcome to the Forge Ahead show, hosted by me, Nick Elston, inspirational speaker, creator of unique mental health engagement strategies, a transformational speaking coach, and a mentor to have in your corner. The Forge Ahead show brings you the storytellers, the influencers, the people who have gone from adversity to excitement, forging something better, something beautiful, something powerful. So stay tuned, dive in, and be inspired by today's very special guest. And a big welcome back to the Forge Ahead show, where we bring you very special people who've gone from adversity to excitement, sharing their stories, sharing their journeys. Look, I'll be honest, I shouldn't say this, but I've got lovely guests coming up. I've got brilliant people coming on. This is the one I've really been looking forward to, because this time it's personal. This time we've got Brady George. Big round of applause for Brady. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Very welcome, mate. Genuinely, and we'll go into the why short, but I've been really excited about this one. So pleased to have you on the new season of the show. So for people that don't know you, and by the way, who wouldn't know you, tell us who you are and what you're about. That high level overview. We'll get into a depth in a second, but who are you? What are you about?
Brady George. I'm a entrepreneur from the southwest of the UK. Vegan athlete, daddy. I'm a investor, entrepreneur, trier, load of different stuff, really. Broad Bristolian, you can tell.
Not a big fan of A Quiet Life, then, mate, to be fair. Should we go with that one?
No.
So the reason why this one's personal is because actually you've seen me at different parts of my life, and our paths have intertwined massively through our existence on this planet. And I love that. And I think there's something in that. I know that we've had many a deep conversation before, and just to kind of run through a few of those things. So I know from kind of where it started, I guess, where I first met you, I was in the pub trade at the time. I was one of the managers down at the Shipping Castle in North Somerset, for those who knew it. And you were one of my runners that I brought in.
Yeah.
How old were you then? About 17?
17, yeah.
Yeah. And genuinely, even then, you stood out as probably the only conscientious runner that I had, strong work ethic. And whereas everyone else was just dicking around, I knew I could just rely on you. So it's no surprise that you've gone on to be as successful as you have been, really. So looking back at that kind of time, what's your kind of memories of that kind of period as well?
It's funny, isn't it? Because I was just talking to a friend of mine just now, and I'm a massive advocate of work ethic, and I think that over a period of time, through your experiences, you end up creating something, even if you're not really aware of it. And I was really, really fortunate really early on to be exposed to some really great people. And I think when you're at a very impressionable age, it's super important that you've got, or hopefully got access to those sorts of sort of people around you. And there was that job. There was, I worked as a labourer and was very lucky. I was at college and was really lucky to work around some great people there. And I think, like all of us, had some pretty horrendous experiences. Well, but it already shapes you, doesn't it? I think,
massively.
The really interesting thing about it is that the whole thing is not in the way; it's on the way, and absolutely everything that happens to us is, building up. It's another block, or it's another page, or it's another line in your own book, isn't it? And
it is.
I bloody loved working for you, because I come from a family that hugely value hard work and give it everything 110%. I've always been an effort guy. I had to really put a ton of effort into sort of get anywhere. And I was always told as a kid, to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And then when you're when you're around someone, particularly in a position of authority that you feel very safe with, and very supported by, you even though you don't know it at the time, that's adding another layer to that sort of moral fiber. And I don't know, it just sort of it sort of almost inadvertently sort of creates it's that old saying, you become you become the people you spend the most sort of time with. And I had a tough old time at school, and being around people that are great influences on you, 100% being one of them makes a massive difference. We just moved to a new area, to be honest, as well. I didn't really know anyone that well, so made a massive difference.
Bless you. Thank you, first and foremost. It's, do you know what, it's an interesting one, and you wouldn't have known this, and nobody knew it at the time, but I think I certainly wasn't in a position at that point to be as open as I am now. I think you're quite right that, like, everything you've ever done, everyone you've ever been, has led exactly to where you are right now. So there's certainly a lot to that. But the reason I ended up there, actually moving away from kind of where I grew up and stuff, was because actually I just needed a fresh start. I was not in a good place. And it gave me an element of kind of coming over the scene of the problem, but actually it didn't, the problems came with me. And I think we try and do that sometimes. You have that run and hide mode. And so actually it's interesting that even though maybe you saw that experience going on, I look back now and see it completely differently. And I think that's why it's interesting putting that modern day perspective on these old memories that we have, that it was a horrible time in a lot of ways. It was certainly kind of, there was a lot of positive things that happened that in a different life, in a different circumstance, would have been amazing things, but I was just not in the place to receive those things at the time. And I quite often found that throughout my life, you've been in the right place to sit at completely the wrong time. Until now, I think, and actually it's only recently, and as you know, because I'm very open with you, I confide in you quite a lot. If I'm having that dip, I want to press that big red eject button. You're one of my go-to guys. Like, come on, what am I going to do? And more often than not, you'll tell me, like, don't jump, don't do it. And so it's interesting, actually. The second most memorable point that I remember us crossing was it Tony Robbins' Unleash Your Power Within. Now we have crossed kind of paths through networking and lots of different stuff, but that was really weird. Out of a room of 10,000 people, that I ended up opposite you. It's nuts, wasn't it?
Well, it was, to be honest, it was really weird because you so casually looked over your shoulder and went, "Hello, mate." Oh, no. For you, it was the most bizarre. It was the most bizarre thing because I took some of our team with me, and I wanted to get as close to the action as possible. So I ended up paying a fortune for a ticket on the front row, and then spent the entire 4 days stood at the back. And that was there was, I had a load of old stuff going around at the time. Like the business was just sort of taking off a bit more. I had this whole thing around self-worth, and I had a real issue with deserving anything really. And I felt like a real idiot, sat in the front with sort of all these other people that clearly had also spent an equally, insane amount of money to sort of sit on the front row. And I was just like, I need to get the frick out of here. And I wanted to sort of just stand at the back and just sort of observing it. It's like the third time I'd been to the seminar in as many years, to be honest with you, and so many beautiful things ended up happening over that sort of 4 day period, and to sort of see you there and then ended up having the conversations that we had, was really profound for me personally in so many ways, because it sort of opened up, if I'm honest, other sort of pretty vulnerable conversations that I, at home and stuff. So yeah, wonderful. And you never know. And it's so funny. get what you need at exactly the right time, don't you? And I don't care what anybody says, it happens that way.
You're right. And yeah, absolutely. And even I was still very much in employed life then. I'd certainly not thought about this as a direction at all. And I think that was really pivotal. And it was genuinely, I'm not saying this because you're on the screen now, genuinely is as much as your input to that weekend as it was Tony Robbins. That the whole weekend was very powerful, but because it actually meant something, having that kind of personal relationship with what we were discussing. And then coming away from that, really, it's not been, I've not looked back since.
No. Funny, isn't it? Like, I think we've all done that for each other over a period of time, but I think it's funny. I think sort of sometimes you can't sort of see what's staring you in the face without someone sort of pointing out the absolute obvious, really. And for you to do what you're doing now, you know, is the most natural thing in the world for you. But I think when you having that sort of pointed out is pretty powerful. Yeah. So yeah, great.
I think we speak a lot. Thank you, mate. And I think we speak a lot about vulnerability, kind of not just on screen, but away from it. Then the conversations we have, and you'll post something that I really resonate with, and vice versa. And I think actually it shines that kind of ego-free insight into the worlds that we operate in. And because from the outside looking in, those kind of terms of successful, which are by definition subjective anyway, but all those kind of things that people may not feel that we get those days where we just don't want to do this anymore. We just kind of, I want to go back to just, I don't know, whether that be employment or just the safe shores or whatever that thing is right there. Is that something you experience? Because obviously, all those things you mentioned, you're highly motivated, you're highly driven. What happens when you're not?
Well, I think I was talking to someone the other week about resolve, and they said they're the best definition of resolve I've ever heard, and it's a Jim Rohn quote, really, that promising yourself that you'll never give up. And those days, if I'm honest, I have those days pretty much every bloody day. And this morning, I felt so anxious this morning, and when I feel like that, I know I just need to get into momentum and take massive fucking action with something, whatever it is, whatever I'm concerned about. So we're going for this big deal at the moment. It's a little bit of a stretch, and because of that, all those anxieties that have been there, all those labels you give yourself over the years, not got enough experience, not old enough, big nose, dodgy accent, ridiculous haircut. They're not going to take me seriously.
Way too harsh.
You're going to get found out. It's a disaster. You know, it's about to blow up any minute. All that sort of stuff. They're laughing at you, and then I think you can only work through that by just working through it. So, like today, I knew that we were going to talk today, and there was a part of me consciously that was trying to make an excuse why it probably wasn't a good idea. Have I got the time? Am I going to add any value to it? Is Nick going to think, oh, Jesus Christ, this is absolute bollocks? So, and you end up sort of making it excuses for yourself. But to answer the question, I just get an action quick. And also I try and observe my thought process. So Deepak Chopra talks about the watcher.
Yeah.
Or being a conscious observer to something. So if I'm having that sort of almost that internal dialogue with myself to say, okay, yeah, that's interesting that you feel like that, or I feel like that. Why might that be? And I journal a lot, and I find it fantastic writing that down, and then I'm almost putting a little bit of distance between me and the problem, and then you've got the opportunity then to share it with somebody, or just read it back, or whatever, or just sit with it. But knowing, you've said this millions of times, that you're feeling anxious about something, but how many times do those things actually happen? And you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I could easily pull out of this opportunity that I've been working on since September 2019. I could easily say it's too much of a stretch, or we haven't got the resource in that country or whatever. But that I would regret that for the rest of my career probably. And
yeah,
most of the things that end up being our best days are when we're at our edges. And I think it's super important to constantly test those edges and feel them and respect them as well, because they're there. You can't get away from that. That the person that I am today wasn't the person that I was if I'm getting it right 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But there's edges here and outer limits for where I am today, and that's okay. It's okay for me to feel scared about something. It's okay for me to worry or think my staff are going to turn up, tomorrow and think, what are we doing with this lunatic? Loser. And actually, if we're really honest, most of us are carrying something like that on a semi-regular basis, if not sort of most of the time anyway. And we're walking around with brains that were, developed to keep us alive from not getting ripped or, getting our faces ripped off by saber-toothed tigers. They're not really designed for 2021, are they? And so we're always in that sort of fight type sort of scenario, and our minds are like water. They're constantly designed to find the path of least resistance and find easier ways to get from A to B or get around something or figure something out or whatever. But we have to suffer to grow. We have to suffer. You don't become somebody else by doing the same thing every day. And it's not like Brené Brown talks about. You can choose courage or comfort. You don't get to choose both. And that's a let's be honest, that's a daily decision. Am I going to choose to try and be courageous today, or am I just going to have a comfortable day? And
I get that. But the way that you use that, even that, you underestimate the power of you being able to share that vulnerability, because like the speaking world, the entrepreneur community is exactly the same. The ego prevents the reality coming through. So by you sharing that will resonate with people. The fact that even people that kind of appear bulletproof, like on the outside, the external kind of vision, still get the things like imposter syndrome and wake up not feeling life today. And I think it's only through these open conversations, which is why it's kind of like it's a habit for me now to do these kind of things, because it breaks down those walls before you even get to that point.
Yeah, super important. Like, we're all just people at the end of the day, and we all have worries and concerns and anxieties, and the whole imposter syndrome conversation itself, I think, is just such an important one, because most of us went to school and from a very early age, not in a bad way, but you're sort of told what you should and shouldn't be doing, and that's pretty debilitating for a 7-year-old to be told, you can't do that, or you shouldn't be doing this, or play with that kid and don't play with that person, or that's not really going to be for you. And I think there's a world, and you've got a universe that's playing like this, and bit by bit you're sort of chunking that all the way down. So okay, this is my lane. I can't live like that.
No,
I don't want to be. I don't want, and I don't want my kids to feel like that. I don't want to. And I think that when you find yourself in a more luck than judgment in a position that you can sort of support other people, you've got a bloody moral obligation to say, look, it's fucking absolutely fine to be struggling with this shit, actually. And guess what? I am as well, and he is, and she is, and most of us are. And at a completely granular level, we're all just these little bits of energy vibrating around, and we're all made up of the same stuff. We come in naked and ignorant, and we leave naked, hopefully not ignorant. But we're all going to end up in the ground.
Depends on when we leave.
Right, yeah.
At what position?
But the reality of it is you can't take anything with you, and like, what are we doing? Like, are we accumulating experiences, and do we want to leave the world a little bit better than when we found it, or do we want to what do we want our lives to be defined by? And not some idea of a grandeur, but surely to God, it's got to be one worth living, hasn't it? Not just getting through, and not just existing, or not just getting by.
Just taking reincarnation off a table just in case, if it is your one go round, make it your one go round kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. And fine, if we are going to come back round again, sure, we want to come back round again with being a better version than we were, 5 incarnations ago. Whatever. I don't know.
Absolutely. So, okay, so we've already kind of really established quite quickly, because we do this, our conversations go like this, even when they're not being recorded. So we've established really quickly, personal and professional development is up there. It's woven into what you do as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as actually now as a key person of influence. That's the other element. So you're now writing and publishing and all these kind of different things. You're out there through social media outlets as well. So as you're going forward with that, is it just around these kind of mindset techniques and which are crucial to you, or actually do you bring spirituality into play as well? And if you do bring spirituality to play, what does spirituality mean to you?
Christ, that's a massive question. So
you are welcome, my friend. Over to you.
Exploring our relationship with ourselves, the world, the universe, and everything that's made up within it is a massive topic, and arguably we're contributing to something way bigger than ourselves. And most laws of the universe, if not all laws of science, they're there. To spend a life exploring that and understanding that, and understanding even a little bit how that all works, would be a life alone worth flipping living. And through meditation, breath work, stillness, gratitude, compassion, love, serenity, unity, we get to figure out over a period of time how connected we all are on a physical, spiritual, and ethereal sort of level. And not only as sort of human beings, but in terms of our relationship with nature, every other living sort of being on planet Earth and beyond. We're going.
Yeah. Always away, mate. That's great. So you actually led on really nicely to well, there's 2 ways I want to go with this. So the first way, you've already kind of mentioned it just now, veganism. So obviously is that a kind of a conscious spiritual decision, or is it a combination of that and health and lots of different things too?
I don't want to be part of something that is making something else worse. So I can live my life knowing that something or somebody is suffering because of me. That feels really fucked up. I can't do that.
I get that. And how much of you, as in how much of Brady George, is in the culture of your organization?
Well, I'd like to say a lot, obviously, because it's my business. Is a business my dad started. It's a business that I'm very passionate about. It's a business that I've spent a huge amount of time trying to support and shape. And I've been extremely fortunate to currently work with and have worked with some fantastic minds, in my opinion, some of the best people out there, whether it be in the business, whether it be on a purely from an advice perspective, consultants, non-execs, whatever. And your business is defined and shaped by the tone and the pace that you set. So as an example, if I attack something aggressively in a short-tempered manner, if I'm rushing everybody, if I'm operating from a place of fear, that's going to resonate throughout the company pretty quickly. So as all of us are leaders. We're the CEO of our lives. We're leading teams, people, and even if we're not leading a company, I've got leaders in my company that some of them are sort of sitting, as the in terms of organizational chart, maybe lower down in the company in terms of sort of chain of command, but have huge amounts of cultural influence within the company. So you've got to be majorly I think self-aware about how you're showing up and what sort of behavior you're modeling every day. And
absolutely,
the coronavirus has been, was a real wake-up call for me that you can run at 1,000 miles an hour, and if you're not careful, quite easily, through best intentions, be leading a team of very dedicated people on something that resembles the Christian Crusades. And that's not a environment that is long term. That's not an environment that is healthy or sustainable, and actually over a period of time not that enjoyable. And we have to check ourselves with that. And selflessness is the in my opinion, number one most important ingredient for leading any team, company, whatever it might be. You have to lead from the back, and there's a great book by Simon Sinek that talks about leaders eat last. You've got to be prepared to bleed all over the bloody carpet for your people.
Well, you mentioned leadership, and actually you mentioned one of your kind of...
You're not going to do it.
Sorry, there was a delay. Wasn't talking over you, my friend. You mentioned leadership, and you also mentioned that one of your fears when you potentially could be under that kind of imposter syndrome thing was around age, being a young entrepreneur, a young leader. Is it actually manifested itself in reality at all? What's been the challenge of being a young leader? Or actually, is it just been that kind of that potential limiting belief that you're too young to do this? Or have you actually had any factual...
Well, but years ago, definitely, yeah. When you got a guy, I'm 34 now. I'm 35 in May, and that's become the last 4 or 5 years. That's become less of an issue. But I ran the operations of our firm from 26, and the majority of the vast majority of people that we employed were a good 20 years older than me most of the time. And we're in the outsourcing business, so we manage and maintain and deliver services in the built environment, so buildings essentially. So you get a lot of fallout from sort of the construction industry and the old into the sort of the old school sort of attitudes towards some of that sort of stuff. So yeah, in sort of the early days that manifested a little bit. Did it manifest as much as it was actually in there? No. And my dad always used to say to me, how important it is to make up an effort what you lack in skill. And over a period of time, if you're working 80 or 90 hours a week, I'm not condoning crazy hours, by the way. Certainly learned those lessons the hard way, but just as a mathematical formula, if you're working 80 hours a week and everyone else in the team is working 40, you're going to catch them up pretty quick. And that's where, you know, leadership isn't given. It's 9 times out of 10 is through action and through modeling and through you know, commitment to, you know, sort of something. So yeah, very early on, but I think again that was mainly a story I told myself, I think, because I didn't want to fail. So you know,
absolutely,
I had crazy excuses over the years.
As your leadership journey has kind of gone on, I always remember we had this conversation, and we were talking about things like networking and where you invest your time and lots of different things around the commercial aspects of being a speaker or whatever that may be. And you actually said to me that it's about scratching around with the chickens or soaring with the eagles, and that really like stuck with me. And it does tap into something that I say every week about we can be a product of our environment. Again, quoting Jim Rohn, that we are the average of the people we surround ourselves with most closest. Now, that absolutely makes sense. So what's the barrier for me to have done that? Is it a comfort thing, do you think? Is it because I've always done it that way, so it feels a little bit safer? Because I know that as you've gone on, you've kind of leveled up your platforms, your kind of stages, your audiences, your boardrooms.
You know the answer to that.
Yeah, I know. For the sake of this, it's rhetorical.
Of course, it's comfort, 100%. Yeah. And I think there's a difference, though. There's a hell of a difference between doing something because you enjoy it and you love it and you're great at it and you feel really passionate about it. That's different, and there's always a place for that. But there's also a massive danger where when you're the most capable person in your group, peer group, you know, team, whatever. There's a tipping point in which the growth massively levels off, and arguably it starts to sort of dip down again, because I was having a conversation with sort of someone else the other week, and he spends most of his time training. So he's training people that are 5, 10, 15 years behind where he's at sort of currently. Okay. And if you're not getting around people that are playing at a 10 times level that you are, and if you don't want to grow, that's fine. But if we assume for a minute that you want to learn, grow, develop in whatever way or area that might be, then you've sort of got to get around people that have already been on that journey. So for me, guys that are in their 50s, are predominantly, or late 40s, early 50s, are predominantly my peer from a entrepreneurial perspective, because most of the stuff let's be honest, most of the stuff that we do, we learn through experience, and I'm constantly trying to find ways to short circuit and sort of hack that process. It's not always possible, but I'm getting around someone who's invested in X, Y, and Z, or bought these businesses, or done this or done that, and that's something that I'm constantly looking for people that have done that. And actually, when you get to a point where you've achieved a certain level of success, most people are super generous with their time. It's that old thing: you were never too old to learn, and we're never too young to teach. And until the lockdown, if I'm honest, I had this whole thing with I've got absolutely nothing to offer anybody. It's super important for me to be student, get around, guys and girls that are playing at a much higher level than I am in whatever area. And when the business is generating $500 million in sales, or when we've bought when we've gone through X number of mergers and acquisitions, or when we've done this or I've done that, and blah blah blah, and all that sort of stuff, then I might write a book, or then I might be able to offer some consultancy to someone, or then I might be able to give someone some half decent advice without it being an absolute disaster, But actually, on that journey, we've had support and leg ups through so many different people at whatever sort of level we're sort of playing at that particular point. So to shut yourself off from that and say, no, I've got nothing to offer, if not for yourself, you've got a real moral obligation to sort of put your hand out and help other people out the same way that we got that as well. I can't even remember. I can't remember what the question was.
Again, this happens a lot with us. I think.
Yeah.
Again, I'm very open about this. I don't mind kind of talking about this. I think I've always built a career being the best second in command I can be. So I guess my conditioning, my pre-programmed response to things is always thinking as that kind of mentality, which is why I think I've always had that kind of love-hate relationship with self-employment. So even when things are going fantastically, I still get that kind of hit the big red eject button sometimes. So I want to run back to that safe shores of being the second in command. And when you're working as a personal brand, so it's all just me, you do kind of think like, what would it be like to create something bigger than just me? And that's the bit where I kind of run back into my comfort zone, if I'm honest. So when things like get mentioned about mentoring or coaching, I kind of think, and then just run back the other way again. So I absolutely understand it's there to be addressed, which is why I wanted to bring it up, because I know this is something that you really push through and invest in and persevere with. And in terms of your journey, from the outside looking in, I see you going kind of like this. Where is that leading to for you? Do you have a desired end game? Do you have a goal, or do you have a series of goals that you push for?
Yeah, of course, yeah. But I don't ever want that to end. If you know what I mean. So it's not. I want to be like Madonna, Nick. I want there to sort of be a constant sort of evolution.
So many bad images in my head then. Yeah. But I guess what I'm trying to say is there another title that you're going for? So vegan runner, entrepreneur, is it going to be, I don't know, celebrity? Is it going to be TV and media? Is it going to go that route? That kind of thing?
Well, so I've got one of my, I do these value plans. So I've got a 5-year value plan of where I'd like to be, be and be operating and achieved in the next 5 years, and I sort of work back from there, and I work out badly sometimes what enabler I need to be able to do this to get to that bit and then that to that. So I want to start an investment company. So that's that's part of my 5-year value plan. So working back from that, okay, so what, for that to be credible, what do I need to do? So I've a really good friend of mine is a really successful public sector investor. So they manage a lot of funds, and he's done extremely well personally, and they've got the best part of £1 billion now under management. So he's like a 10 times guy for me. So I had a chat with this particular chap and said, look, what do you think? So just being in proximity with him is great, because we're texting and meeting up and going on rides and whatever. But there also needs to be something you can stand behind for that particular goal. So most people that run those have got an economist type background typically. So it would make sense for me to become a chartered financial analyst. Now, I was thinking, Christ, that's a hell of a jump for me. I've got no degree or anything like that. So I started looking around. Cut long story short, I'm now training for my sort of CFA. It's going to take me about 4 years, but I'm enjoying it, not because I'm not really interested in the qualifications, to be honest with you, but I get so excited by the knowledge around investing and understanding the sort of the maths and the perception and value in businesses and the psychology behind it, that I'm having real fun doing it. And I've got to do the exams, and I'm sort of, really panicking about that. And, I'm not big on that, but there's something really purist about being at play, and you're sat down doing something, and you've got the butterflies in your stomach, and you're so fucking excited by it. And I try and keep that sort of childlike curiosity with anything that I'm interested in. I've hit that like four times now.
It's all good.
And it feels really, really powerful, because I find it infectious talking to people that are excited by something, even if I have got absolutely no interest in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like I did A-level geography. I hated geography. I only did it because the teacher that I had in a couple of years, a guy called Mr. Cope, was so excited by physical geography, and I thought there was a 1 in 6 chance that he'd be my teacher. I thought I can't not take this subject. Mr. Cope is so excited by it. So, and as it turned out, I didn't get him, and I completely flunked. It was a disaster, but it really does demonstrate. Yeah, utter waste of 2 years. It just demonstrates how important it is to be super curious about whatever. And that's, to be honest, that's one of the main reasons we've chosen to homeschool our 2 daughters, because I want that level of curiosity to be constant. If they're interested in, whatever it might be, the a mic for podcast, whatever, wherever they're, and then figuring out who they are. I don't want anybody telling them that, because you're a girl, you should be doing X, Y, and Z, or you do this and do that. You don't say this and we don't go there, and all that sort of stuff. And of course, we're conditioned to an extent by our environment, and we're bringing them up in the UK, so there's going to be a whole host of stuff with that. They're growing up in a country where English is the first language, and it's highly likely, unless we move them out of that they're only going to speak one language, so we're conscious of that sort of stuff. But all these choices that we're making for them are going to have a massive impact sort of long term. But we get to make those decisions for ourselves every day. So I could quite easily just float along, in the same way that we all do a lot of the time, and just say, well, I'll see where I am next year, I'll see where I am in 5 years' time, or whatever. But we haven't got an infinite amount of time to crack this, or to absorb that, or really enjoy our lives. And so my own personal philosophy is to be really grateful and enjoy where I am now, whilst pursuing stuff that I feel really passionate about. Because I'm extremely fortunate. I've got 2 wonderful daughters. I've got a partner that loves me. I've got a roof over my head. I live in an area where the door's not going to get kicked in by some lunatic next door any sort of second minute. We've got a relative degree of freedom. If we want to go on holiday, we can afford to go on holiday. We can afford to pay the mortgage, all that sort of stuff. But it seems a bit bonkers not to pursue things that, when I sit in those moments of stillness, I know in my heart that they're important to me.
Yeah,
I should ignore that.
You mentioned kind of home life as well. In terms of your partner, does she share the same kind of mindset as you, or is there like a difference in how you both think, and how does that align with the reality of stuff?
She's uber supportive, super passionate. Starting a family was the best thing that happened to us, because what it did, it sort of really brought into sort of sharp focus that we just can't waste time waiting for tomorrow, next week, next year, or whatever. She sold her business to become a full-time mum, and she's pouring at the moment all her energy into that. And and as a guy, and as a dad, and as a partner, I can't help but be like mentally inspired by that, really. And she is, women are absolutely masters of time management, phenomenal. The output and work rate is just absolutely insane, and she can do that on 90 minutes sleep. She's just
wow,
a rock star. So is there any disconnect on any level, like any 2 people sort of coming together? Of course, there's things that we're not aligned on absolutely every single subject or topic at the time. But what we found, and I've been really fortunate with, is that when you really love somebody, they bring the best out in you, and you hopefully in them. And I've been, maybe cry in a minute. I've been really, really fortunate to fall in love with someone, and that supports me to be the best version of myself, and that's you can't ask for any more than that.
Love that. You're a beautiful man, Brady George. So sadly, I've got to bring this to a close because otherwise we'll be here all night, and that'd be great for us, not so much for everybody else. So thank you so much for donating your time to come on and have a chat with me about this. Absolute pleasure. The one question I ask everybody on here. So I am the new MC of O2 Arena. 20,000 people spend our hard-earned money to come and hear you do your thing, whatever your thing is. I'm just about to call you to the stage, just about to introduce you. What would your walk-on music be? What would your tune that you would walk on to, which will motivate you, get your state up and pumping? That track would be?
AC/DC Thunderstruck.
Ah, tune. Awesome. Good shout. Love that.
Or Swedish House Mafia, Don't You Worry Child. One of those two.
Nice. Good work. Absolutely love that. Brady George, big round of applause. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we'll get you back for the next season. That'd be awesome. So, thank you so much, mate.
No, pleasure. Thanks for your time. Take care, dude.
And that's a wrap. A big thank you for tuning in to today's show. Please stay tuned and hit subscribe for future episodes, bringing you amazing guests, sharing amazing content and amazing insights. Really excited to bring you these. The Forge Ahead show is sponsored by nickelston.com. If you want to connect with me, you can find all the ways possible through the website. If you want to drop me a message, always great to hear from you. But in the meantime, if I don't catch you before, I'll see you at the next episode. And you take care, guys. Cheers now. Bye. Bye-bye.